In today's video, we're taking a look at the latest trade rumors around the NHL. We're talking about some top players like Patrick Kane and Dylan Larkin. Could we see trades of these top guys this year? We also have a big update in Montreal regarding Paul Byron and his injury. We also have major updates on Hockey Canada's situation. The organization appears to be imploding. Lots of big news to discuss there, as well as lots more news around the waivers, training camp cuts, and more. Coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of news to talk about today, so let's dive right in and get started. First up with the news from the NHL waiver wire. It continues to be a very busy waiver season, as we know, as teams make cuts to their training camp rosters, getting ready to be cap compliant and get their full rosters in place for the regular season. There were no waiver claims from the players placed yesterday. Everybody cleared. Those players can all be assigned to the minor leagues with no issues. Today we do have another group, not a huge group, but some interesting names, including Edmonton Oilers have goaltender Calvin Pickard and defenseman Slater Cuckoo. The Boston Bruins have goalie Keith Kincaid, along with players Vinny Lettieri, Daniel Renouf, and Jona Koppanen. The Avalanche have Jason Megna. The New York Rangers have Johnny Brzezinski, and the LA Kings have Elias Anderson. So, of course, Anderson is another player, former high pick, top 10 pick. Of course, with the Rangers, never really got much of an opportunity, has struggled to find his game in the NHL. It's unfortunate to see such a high pick not really being able to amount to anything. I do wonder, to be honest, if his career in the NHL is just not going to materialize in his time soon to be up, but we'll see. Some other notable roster cuts today, including the Dallas Stars sending top prospect Maverick Bourque to the American Hockey League. They do, however, still have some pretty high-end prospects in camp, including Wyatt Johnson and Logan Stankoven. Right now, there's a decent chance at least one, maybe even both, will make the NHL roster and get to start the season on the big club, which is good. The Calgary Flames have also demoted goalie Dustin Wolf, top prospect, but not a surprise given the fact that we already have Markstrom and Vladar in Calgary. And of course, the Boston Bruins have also demoted, besides the players on waivers, Johnny Beecher, Fabian Lysell, and Mark McLaughlin all get sent down to Providence. I honestly thought out of the three, I thought McLaughlin was going to make the roster. But the injuries they have, he was having a real good camp, did a lot of good things, but unfortunately not quite yet, but still should be an early call-up option, I think, for sure. Some news in the PTO front. The Edmonton Oilers have released Jake Virtanen from his PTO, and the Calgary Flames have released Sonny Milano and Cody Eakin from their PTOs as well. So none of those have worked out. The Flames still have Michael Stone on a PTO. The Oilers still have Jason Demers on a PTO. Decisions there you have yet to be decided. So obviously Virtanen didn't have a great showing. Got to play in his hometown of Abbotsford the other night, and actually he was even booed out of the building when he was going to serve a penalty for the Oilers. So things didn't go well. He's done there. I'm not sure he's going to get another opportunity, to be completely honest. His season last year in the KHL didn't go well. Regardless of the off-ice stuff, like I said before, it doesn't matter what you think of Jake Virtanen as a person. I know he was cleared of wrongdoing, and there's still people convinced that he necessarily wasn't as innocent as they made out, but it doesn't really matter. You take all that out of the equation, he's just not an NHL hockey player. That's just all what it boils down to. Sonny Milano is a bit of a head scratcher, but I know I've seen enough Flames media and fans saying he has not looked great in camp either, but he had 14 goals and 34 points last year, and he's fairly young, and he's very skilled, so it's unusual to see a player of that skill level be out of the league so quickly after putting together that kind of season. But I wouldn't be shocked, though, if somebody does pick up Milano sometime soon, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that front as well. The Oilers have also made another announcement today. They're bringing back former NHL player and former Oiler player Steve Staois. He's been hired to work with the Edmonton Oilers as a special advisor to hockey operations. Of course, Steve Staois, since he's been playing, has been involved in management and coaching, like with the different ranks within the junior world. Of course, he was recently leading the Hamilton Bulldogs of the Ontario Hockey League, was the GM there. Of course, helped them win the OHL championship last year, and they competed in the Memorial Cup. He did a phenomenal job, and apparently he's been talking to the Oilers off and on to make this happen for some time. So he steps away from his role with the Hamilton Bulldogs and joins the Oilers as an advisor to hockey ops, and I would suspect that he's going to continue to push more opportunities and see how far he can climb up the ladder at the NHL level. Staois has certainly done a great job and earned an opportunity for sure. Now, before we get into any of the trade talk, I want to talk a bit more about Hockey Canada. We haven't talked about this in a long time. I talked about Hockey Canada and the scandal with the 2018 World Junior team a bit. And of course, there was another scandal from a previous team. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was 2003. So we know that Hockey Canada has covered up some stuff that was bad. And we know that there's obviously a lot going on to investigate what really happened and all that aside. Like, regardless of the players, I've seen people comment on social media bad-mouthing players that are on that team, and nothing's ever been proven. So I don't really like to see that. But regardless of all that, Hockey Canada as an organization, it just, every time they open their mouth, it gets worse. They recently resumed hearings with the committee set up by the federal government yesterday, and just a lot of the stuff that they were saying just does not make themselves look any better. They are still convinced that they have the right people in place, and like the board and the leadership group basically refuses to resign. It's absolutely insane. Well, today they've got another rude awakening, and to be honest, if they don't just open their eyes and be like, all right, we got to go, I'm not sure what it's going to take. But we've seen announcements from several major sponsors make announcements today that they are permanently done with Hockey Canada. A lot of these guys had put funding on hold. We know that the government put funding on hold. We know that the sponsors had everything on hold while the investigation was going on. But since we've seen nothing so far from them to make any change, they're saying we're done. So this list of sponsors includes major ones like Canadian Tire, Scotiabank, Tim Hortons, Esso, TELUS. These are big-time corporations that contribute a ton of money to their program and sponsor, especially the World Junior Championships and big tournaments like that. It's been absolutely crazy, the amount of money that these companies use to promote the game of hockey in this country and trust Hockey Canada with. They are all permanently pulling out. Now, I think they could be brought back if we actually get the changes. We actually heard Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and quite honest, if you follow politics, regardless if you're Canadian, American, or where you are, when you hear Justin Trudeau talk, a lot of the things that he says doesn't sound the brightest at times, but he actually said something that I thought made sense today. Maybe we need to start fresh with a whole new organization, call it something different. Maybe instead of Hockey Canada, it's Canada Hockey or something to that effect. And he said, we'll just have to start fresh. And that's exactly what they need. They might as well just get rid of everybody, because to be honest, that organization as a whole right now, without funding from the government and without funding from all these sponsors, it really can't operate. So it's a matter of time. So these people that are running it, the board of directors and the leadership, you got to resign. We've even seen Hockey Quebec cut ties with Hockey Canada. There was an announcement earlier from Hockey Nova Scotia saying they no longer believe in the leadership, and this is only going to continue. And I know there's supposed to be a conference call this evening between Hockey Canada and all of the provincial bodies. So I hope they make it clear to them that, listen, we need change. We need it now. We need mass resignations, and we need to start fresh, or it's just not going to be able to continue. It's just that simple. Like, you've been covering stuff up for years. You've been using money that you get from player registrations to pay off victims to go away so players don't get in trouble. It's wrong. It's crazy. So hopefully we get some actual real change here, but today was a major reckoning here as we see all these big time sponsors pull out. But unfortunately, I feel it's necessary to get their attention for them to wake up and create some change. So let's hope they do the right thing here. Now on to some other news. Paul Byron of the Montreal Canadiens might not start the season. Of course, we know he had a major hip surgery in the offseason and still recovering, and it sounds like he may have to start the year on long-term injury reserve, and there might even be a chance that his career might be over. Now, of course, we can't say that. It's a little premature, but considering how long he's been out and the issues he's having, it sounds possible that could be the path he's heading down. So obviously that creates a bigger long-term injury reserve pool for the Montreal Canadiens. It will help with the cap. Not going to help him personally at all. He's got the final year of his deal. So if he can't play for a while, it's going to obviously limit to what he's able to do. And like I said, it could end up bringing his career to a short end. So we want to wish Paul Byron a full and speedy recovery. Hopefully he can get back to playing, but that's certainly not good news for the Canadiens forward. On to some trade talk today. Obviously, I want to talk a bit about Frank Seravalli's bold predictions, and there's two players in this article that he talks about that we've talked about a little bit more, one more than the other, but pretty bold. So he's predicting that this year, during the season, that the New York Rangers acquire Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks and that he also signs an extension. So obviously we know there's a good likelihood that Kane will get moved sometime before the deadline. Well, Frank's predicting the New York Rangers, they have a lot of interesting young players, picks, and whatever the Blackhawks I'm sure would like, and that it makes sense that they could get a deal done. Now, I've seen people commenting on social media. I've even seen people replying to Frank's post when he shared his article saying, you know that the Blackhawks are paying Kane $10 million. Like, the Rangers can't afford $10 million. It's amazing to me how many people like to make comments and call people that are writing articles or making videos and say how they don't understand and they're idiots and they're dumb, but yet they don't understand the cap and how it works at all. Like, you realize the Blackhawks can retain half of Kane's contract. You could even pay another team to retain a little bit. Like, the Rangers could get Patrick Kane for like $3 million or less on the salary cap at the end of the year. Plus, they accrue cap space to be able to add to the deadline anyway. So, like, you know, it just frustrates me to see some of the comments through social media. It's not necessarily just here on my videos. I get that a little bit, but it's just all over. Amazes me how many people like to make comments without even fully understanding how it works. It's a little frustrating sometimes. But to me, I think the Rangers will definitely be in the mix for Patrick Kane. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him reunited with Artemi Panarin. Obviously gives him a chance to chase another Stanley Cup. I think he would be a good fit there. Maybe they have some of these young talent that they have excess of. They have lots of defensemen. Will Kakko, Lafreniere, Hedl all stick around? I know from a cap perspective, it's going to be challenging. So if you bring in another player like Kane, something's going to have to go. And it's difficult to say what that is. But it'd certainly be interesting to see if his prediction comes true. I think there'll be other teams in the mix. But I do think the Rangers, to me, makes a ton of sense. And I've been saying it before, too, that they're definitely one of the top 2 or 3 teams I would predict that Kane would go to this year. And the other big bold prediction, which I'm not really going to agree with, but would be very interesting if it happened, is that the Detroit Red Wings will fail to come to terms with Captain Dylan Larkin on a contract extension, and he will be traded by the deadline as well. Of course, we know Larkin had an awesome season last year. He's coming up for a new contract. The Red Wings are expected to take some big steps this year, but there's still a good chance they won't be a playoff team, at least not quite yet. But will still certainly be better than last year. That much we can probably say for sure. But certainly, right now we don't have an extension in place for Larkin, and all has been quiet. But at the same time, I don't think there's really any reason to think that there's going to be a lot of difficulty in getting that done. Obviously, Steve Yzerman has to make a decision not only on Larkin, but his line mate and teammate Tyler Bertuzzi, also in the same kind of boat. Bertuzzi's another unique case as well. Like, they got to make a decision. And what I said before is, like, is it worth, because they're not old players by any means, but signing them to 7-8 year deals at this point, does it make sense with where your team is at in its rebuild? But then they've added a bunch of veterans, right, this offseason. So to me, you've added David Perron, you've added Andrew Kopp. To me, that signals that you want to be winning soon, quickly. So to me, it makes sense to keep them around. I'm not so sure we're going to see a Dylan Larkin trade, but it will certainly be interesting to follow that scenario throughout the season, and we'll see if Frank Seravalli's prediction comes true. We know obviously he's connected and has a lot of inside info, so he must have something to make some think that that's a real possibility. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do you see Kane going to the Rangers? Do you see the Wings trading Larkin? Let me know your thoughts. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.